over 40 years, e.Republic has been a pioneer of the GovTech market. e.Republic is the nation's leading data, media, and events company dedicated exclusively to state and local government and education. e.Republic's mission is to serve as the trusted source for guidance, innovation, and meaningful connections, empowering government and education to reach their fullest potential. e.Republic is leaning into the future, helping government make sense of all of the disruptive technologies like generative AI that are starting to impact the public sector.
Good morning. Thank you so much, Kim. I am going to echo everything you just said throughout the whole morning. So, hi, I'm super excited to be here and welcome you to steamy Sacramento. Is it steamy enough for you? Okay, well, it's steamy enough for me. I don't like it when it gets this hot, but I'm excited to talk about anticipating the future. So for most of my career, I have been championing technology and innovation in education and government, and pushing and prodding elected officials to understand that they have to embrace technology to really manage modern education and government today. So I've spent most of my life doing that. And our team thinks a lot about the future. So I'm going to talk about that, and I'm going to dig in because I have a lot to cover in just a little bit of time. So the first thing to think about the future is we really look at public sector as an experience. So if you look at this diagram, for years, for most of my career, government education been working on this infrastructure and data layer. And then next went on to this application and service layer, which is where we really think we are today. But what is next? And I think next is really about anticipating the needs. You have to think about anticipating the needs of your students, your citizens, your businesses, and even your employees. And I think education has done a better job of this than government. But looking at what we're saying, the next layer is that experience layer. So the future is experiential. The future is also edgeless. So it's edgeless education and edgeless government. And what do I mean by that? Everyone kind of has their boxes, their four corners. And we need to get beyond that. Education needs to do that, and so does government. And here's a good example. It is Prime Day, right? It's Prime Day. So here we are, it's Prime Day, and we need a shed. Now here in California, you don't need a permit, but Texas and many other states, you need a permit to buy a shed. So we go, we buy our shed, but edgeless government has worked with those local jurisdictions. So not only do you get your shed, but then you get your permit. And you have all the information to that delivery team so that then when they deliver the shed, it's exactly the amount away from your fence that it's supposed to be. And so you're all within the rules and regulations. You get your permit and you go on. That is such a great experience. Now here in California, I had lunch with the head of our GovOps just 2 weeks ago. She was our former state chief information officer, got promoted to this huge job running GovOps. And she is all about this, edgeless government hacking permitting. Think about this. When our governor ran originally, he was all about the permitting process because so many businesses have come to him and said, hey, we've got to change this. So she is dedicated to this. In fact, when I talk with governors around the country, they're always talking about permitting. So if we could take permitting and just hack it and make it edgeless, think about the change that would occur and think about the economic impact. So our future is about experience and it's edgeless. But how do we build that? How do we get there? Got some ideas. The first is we gotta think differently. So I have had many positions in e.Republic, and I was president for a long time. But in the middle of the pandemic, I became the chief executive officer and took over this company. And the first thing that I knew is I had to think differently about the world we're in today and how to get this company into the future. and really embrace this idea of going beyond incremental thinking or linear thinking to exponential thinking. Now you can see some of these points and you can compare and contrast here, but I'm going to focus on 3 of these points. The first one has to do with goals. Now the good news is that education and government has goals. That's good because we need goals to accomplish things. But it has been about realistic goals. But if you look at where we are today in government and education, we're at a moment in time that we need to go beyond realistic goals and set ambitious goals. You know, the leaders who set ambitious goals get a lot more done. And that's really what's needed right now. So ambitious goals. The next idea is this concept of standardization. For years, think about what we've done in government education. So it's standard operating procedure, it's project management, it's being efficient. Well, that's fine, but the future is about personalization. I already talked about that a little bit from an experience standpoint, but how do we personalize everything that we do when we deliver? And the last thing has to do with decision making. Government education, really good with centralized decision making. So are companies. You know, the first thing I did when I took over as CEO is I went on a listening tour and talked to every department in the company, asked a lot of questions, and realized we had a decision-making issue. There wasn't enough decision-making where it needed to be. And so really, we wanted to empower decision-making, so we've changed that up. And I really think the future for all of us has to do with this. Step 2, have the right foundation. Well, thank goodness we're at this incredible AWS conference, so this audience already gets the right foundation. Because the future is not having on-premise servers hiding in closets around buildings. That is not the future. The future is the cloud. And if you think about the disruption and innovation that the cloud has brought us just in the last 10 years, how everything has changed because of that. So it's taking you out of that technology infrastructure business and really into the business of innovation, transformation, and getting stuff done, which is vital right now. So next, we gotta promote diverse thinking. And wow, it is so great to see AWS leaning into this. This is the cover of Government Technology, our recent cover. And I love this story because this is a young woman from Indiana, Jennifer Swartz. And she has spent her adult life working in kitchens. And then the pandemic hit. So she makes a career shift. She enrolls in a local tech community college. And then she finds out about the state of Indiana program called Earn and Learn, which actually pays students to become technology professionals. And then when they graduate, they go to work for the Department of Technology Services in the state of Indiana. She goes through this program and, you know, from a cook to a junior systems engineer, she comes out and starts working for the state. And not only is she incredibly excited about this new opportunity, but the state CIO who runs this program, he's thrilled with all of the new employees, this new level of thinking, and a diverse workforce. So the thing about the future, really it's about digital equity, it's about diversity, inclusion, it's about belonging, it's all of that, and not just in hiring, but in everything that we do. Step 4, we gotta keep it simple. Now, if you've noticed today, people don't have a really good attention span, and the future is all about speed. So I'm highly recommending this book. So the founders of Politico left Politico and started a company called Axios. I read their newsletter every day. And not only do they do all of their newsletters with this smart brevity format, but they run their entire company. And the concept is less is better. And I think the future is about speed, and it's about delivering your communication quickly and efficiently to the people that you need to influence. No longer are these huge 3-ring binders with reports. Those days are over. I read this book the first day it came out. It is an easy read. Gave it to all of our executive team, our teams. We've done trainings on this. We run everything in our company, even down to how we run our meetings with the Smart Brevity format. So the future is keep it simple. And then the last point here is this concept of being adaptable. And I can't do a better job than you did about talking about generative AI and what's happening in the world. Think just from January, how it's just disrupted everything and all the projections and all the information that was already shared. So this is a moment in time. It's a transformative time for education and government, and we have to be adaptable. We have to be able to change. And underneath being adaptable is this concept of measuring what you're currently doing. So this great Peter Drucker quote, a really important quote for me, you can't manage what you don't measure. I have taken that to heart, and you all have to as well, right? You have to look at your key performance indicators. You've got to look at your analytics. And how long have we been talking about data-driven decision-making? But it's really finally here. Because the key is if you're managing like this today and you have the data and the analytics at hand, you can be a better leader and manager, and it does a few things for you. First of all, if you have the metrics, you as a team can look at that and analyze it, and it puts you all on the same page. The other thing that it does is you don't have to suffer people's opinions, right? People have a lot of opinions about a lot of things. I get a lot of people's opinions. What's great about managing this way is you can just look at the information. And the last thing that it does is if you need to adapt and pivot, you can see, oh, this isn't working. Wow, we rolled out this program. We thought it was going to be fantastic, but it's not. And you can pivot, and you pivot as a team. So this idea of you measure, you adapt, and you repeat is the new cycle of innovation for all of us. So we put that all together, and where do we go from here? And I want to illustrate this with a conversation I had on Friday with the city manager of Stockton, California. When I first met Harry, he was the chief financial officer of Baltimore, Maryland. And then he took on the job as city manager of Cincinnati, Ohio. And then Stockton brought him here to California. Stockton has struggled for years. It's really been a city that's really trying to reinvent itself. And what I loved about this conversation with Harry is he represents where do we go from here? Because he's embracing the future. He is fed up with this Gov and Ed 1.0, as he calls it, and that we need to get to Gov 2.0. And that's going to need different skills and approaches that we don't even have yet. He is passionate about changing the nature of training, taking the theory and really focusing on the practical. And how do we teach people in government education how to get things done? He spent so much time talking about getting things done because we don't get enough done. And right now, we have so much to get done. So he's passionate about that. So for me, he is the future. He's one of those leaders that leans into this. And I challenge us all to do that. And if you look at this cliche here, so you got the glass half empty or half full. You could either go, well, this is a time, there's a lot going on, I'm going to retire soon or I'm going to change jobs, so I think someone else could figure this out, really maybe handle some of the problems, or we can embrace it. We can look at this dynamic time that we're in, all of the tools, everything that's changed and where we are, and we can lean into it. And we can change our department, we can drive that direction, and we can move towards the future. And really, if you look at innovation, our only solution is to look that the glass is half full. And I personally think this is a moment in time that we need to lean into this. You know, I've lived through a lot of different moments of all of this in government education. And right now, I am more excited than ever. And I think it's time to embrace this. So, thank you so much. I hope you have a great conference, and let's do this.